Now, before we end this section, it might be kind of interesting to think about how in the world this idea of a uniform distribution might actually relate to different things out in the world. Can we think of things that are actually uniformly distributed? Or maybe relatively uniformly distributed. That is, we could say that the maybe like the demand for some particular item is going to kind of remain consistent or uniform across time. Well, we could actually think of maybe a lot of different examples like that if we just sat down for a bit of time to, I guess, mull it over. Well, maybe I could imagine something like demand for, how about something like certain types of food? Demand for certain types of food. Sure, I mean, something like that could possibly be uniformly distributed. Right? I could say that the demand across time might not maybe change that much for certain types of food. Right, maybe if I think about something like, breakfast cereal, there may not necessarily be like too much fluctuation in the demand for something like breakfast cereal. However, maybe something like the demand for ice cream might begin to change, maybe as the weather gets warmer or something like that. I could maybe also imagine something like, I don't know, maybe demand for certain types of clothing. So I'll say demand for certain types of clothing. Right? We could imagine something like this having a pretty constant or steady or uniform distribution of, sales maybe throughout the year. Maybe something like dress socks, like if you have people that are going to work, or dressing up, wearing nice suits or something, they're probably going to be purchasing things in relative sort of a consistent basis throughout the year. I wouldn't maybe expect a lot of fluctuation in those sales. However, some items, maybe like winter jackets, are probably going to sell a lot better in winter than they will at other times of the year. So we can see that some items in the world are actually going to be uniformly distributed in terms of how often they're consumed or purchased. And so understanding uniform distributions is a great way to try to go ahead and understand these sorts of products and ideas a bit more closely. If you take a look at example number 2, you could see another example. Suppose that annual automobile insurance costs are uniformly distributed in the U.S. Right? Maybe that there are pretty steady sorts of automobile insurance costs across the country. There's a lot of people that pay a lot for car insurance, maybe with expensive cars, people that don't pay that much. And so maybe there's a range from like $200 up to $1,182. Could we go through and almost ask a similar series of questions to everything that we did in example 1? Notice here, I'm going to ask you to define the variable, determine what would be the average automobile cost, and start to answer some questions about some probabilities. Now, I'm going to actually go ahead and ask you to complete these questions on your own. I'm not going to go through them here in this video. However, if you take the time to go ahead and work through these questions, you know that you can check to see if you're right in the answers that are posted in Blackboard. This is a really, again, valuable tool. You really want to spend this time now practicing these ideas so that way when this information pops up on an assessment, pops up on an exam, you're ready to go. And this is great practice in addition to those worksheet problems. Of course, if you have any questions or if something in those solutions doesn't quite make sense, by all means, please let me know and I'd be happy to talk about it with you.